Mark was a calm and hard-working man who carried a quiet love for his young daughter Lily. Every morning he watched her get ready for school with a bright smile and a hopeful spirit. She would pack her small lunchbox with care and wave at him before stepping onto the school bus. Mark always felt proud when he saw her leave because she was the heart of his life and he wanted her to have a future full of joy. Even though work often kept him busy, he tried to stay involved in every moment of her day. One afternoon something unusual happened inside him. It was not a sound or a clear thought, but a gentle feeling that told him to visit Lily at school during lunch. He had never made such an unplanned visit before, and he did not know why the idea came to him now, yet he decided to listen to that quiet pull. He took a short break from his job and drove toward the school with steady hands on the steering wheel. The road felt peaceful, but his mind was full of a strange mix of excitement and concern. He thought about surprising Lily and seeing her happy reaction because she often spoke about how she wished he could join her at lunch someday. As he reached the school gate, he greeted the staff and walked through the hallway with slow steps. The walls were filled with student drawings and bright colors, yet he felt a slight weight in his heart that he could not explain. He continued walking until he reached the lunch area where children were scattered across different tables talking, laughing, eating, and moving around in cheerful groups. The air was full of noise and energy, but when he looked around for Lily, he did not find her among the groups of students. Instead, he saw her at a small corner table sitting alone with her head lowered. Her lunchbox was open, but she had barely touched her food. For a moment Mark stood frozen because Lily was usually the kind of child who enjoyed being around others. She always talked about her classmates and the fun games they played. Seeing her isolated at a table far from everyone else sent a sharp feeling through his chest. He watched her for a few seconds, trying to make sense of what he saw. Her shoulders were slightly bent and her hands were clasped as if she felt nervous. Something about her posture showed a sadness she was trying to hide. Mark walked forward with careful steps, not wanting to startle her. As he approached, he saw two children passing by who whispered to each other while looking at Lily. Their expressions held a mix of judgment and cold distance. This sight troubled him even more. When Lily finally lifted her head and saw him standing there, her eyes filled with surprise. Instead of running to him with joy, as she usually did, she looked tense, as if she did not want him to witness something she had been silently facing. Her small lips trembled for a second, before she managed to give him a soft, hesitant smile. He sat down beside her and greeted her with warmth. Lily tried to act normal, but her voice sounded weak when she welcomed him. Mark looked into her eyes and asked gently why she was sitting alone. She quickly shook her head and said she was fine, but he could see she was not telling the truth. Her fingers kept pressing the side of her lunchbox, and her gaze kept drifting toward a group of children at another table. Mark followed her eyes and noticed that a few of them were watching Lily with silent expressions. It was not friendly curiosity, but something distant and unkind. He turned back to Lily and asked again if everything was all right. She bit her lip and looked down at her food without answering. The moment stretched and Mark felt a rise of worry in his chest. He wanted to reach out and hold her hand, but he did not want to pressure her. He waited patiently, hoping she would share her feelings on her own. After a short silence, Lily softly whispered that nothing was wrong and she just wanted a quiet lunch. Her words did not match the sadness in her eyes. Mark could sense a heavy truth hiding beneath her gentle voice. As he was about to speak again, a girl from the table nearby walked toward them. She paused behind Lily and spoke in a cold tone, telling Lily to finish her lunch because no one wanted to sit with her. The girl said it with the confidence of someone who had repeated the same line many times. Then she walked away without waiting for a response. Mark felt something shift inside him. Those words echoed in his ears and filled him with a painful mix of confusion and disbelief. He looked at Lily, who kept her head down, trying to pretend she had not heard the cruel remark. Her small body seemed to shrink in her seat. Mark looked around again, this time with sharper awareness. He saw the way some children avoided looking at Lily. He saw the distant posture of the group that kept whispering while sending cold glances in her direction. He saw the way Lily tried to make herself invisible so she would not attract more attention. A deep ache formed within him because he knew she was dealing with something painful that she had never shared with him. His heart grew heavier with every detail he noticed. He placed his hand gently near hers, hoping she would feel safe. He asked in a low, soft voice if someone had been unkind to her. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering courage. When she opened them again, the sadness in her gaze told him more than words could. She whispered that she did not want to make him sad. Hearing this made Mark feel a strong wave of emotion. A child should never feel the need to protect a parent from her own pain, yet Lily had been carrying this burden alone. He looked at her with deep care and told her she was not alone, and he wanted to understand everything. His voice stayed calm, but his heart was racing. He felt a sense of purpose rising inside him. This unexpected visit was no accident. Something had brought him here today at this exact moment. He had believed he was coming to surprise her, yet it became clear that he had been guided to witness a truth she had been hiding. As he sat beside her in that noisy lunch area, the world around him seemed to fade. All he could see was his daughter, and the silent struggle she had been enduring. In that moment, Mark made a quiet promise to himself. Whatever was happening, he would not let his daughter face it alone anymore. He would uncover the full truth and stand beside her with unwavering strength. Mark sat beside Lily in the lunch area, trying to understand how his cheerful daughter had become so quiet. He could feel the tension in her small shoulders, and he noticed how her hands stayed close to her lunchbox as if it were a shield. The noise of the other children felt distant to him, as he focused only on her sadness. He wanted to help her open up, but he also knew he had to move slowly. She had been carrying this weight for some time, and he did not want to push her into fear or discomfort. He breathed deeply and tried to keep his voice gentle so she would feel safe. Lily finally looked up at him, and he saw the shine of tears hiding behind her calm face. She tried to smile again, but her lips shook. Mark asked softly if the kids had been unkind to her. She hesitated and lowered her eyes again. For a long moment she seemed unsure if she should speak. Mark placed his hand lightly near hers, not touching, but close enough for her to feel his support. This gave her a small sense of courage. She took a slow breath and whispered that it had been happening for many days. Her voice was so quiet that Mark had to lean closer to hear her. She explained that some children in her class did not accept her. They laughed at her during group activities and refused to sit with her during lunch. She said it started with a few small remarks and then grew into daily teasing. She never told Mark or her teachers because she thought it might make things worse. She believed that if she stayed silent, the others might eventually stop. But silence had only made her more of a target. Mark listened to every word, feeling his heart tighten with each detail she shared. He wondered how many mornings she had gone to school wearing her brave smile while hiding all this pain. He asked Lily why she had not told him earlier. She looked up with unsure eyes and said she did not want to worry him. Mark felt a deep ache inside. A father always wants to protect his child, yet his own daughter had been trying to protect him from her suffering. He reached for her hand, and this time she did not pull away. He held it gently and told her that she should never feel alone and that he was always there for her no matter how small or big the problem was. Lily nodded with a small, grateful look. As they sat together, one of the teachers walked into the lunch area. Mark stood up and approached her because he needed to understand what had been happening. The teacher looked surprised to see him at school during lunchtime, but she greeted him with a polite smile. Mark asked if she had noticed anything about the children treating Lily differently. The teacher paused and her expression shifted slightly. She said Lily was a quiet and polite student, and she did her work well. She admitted she had seen a few moments where some students did not include Lily, but she thought it was normal school behavior and did not realize it had grown into something harmful. Mark listened carefully, but he felt disappointment taking hold. He knew teachers had many students to look after, yet he wished someone had noticed the growing loneliness around his daughter. He asked if she could keep a closer watch during class and lunch. The teacher agreed and promised to pay more attention. She also said she would speak to the other children and remind them about kindness and respect. Mark thanked her, but he knew he had to do more. He could not depend only on others. He wanted to be directly involved in bringing change for Lily. He walked back to Lily, who was watching him with hopeful eyes. He sat with her again and told her that things were going to get better. She asked him how he could be so sure. He smiled warmly and said that he would make sure of it because she mattered more than anything to him. Lily took a slow breath, and for the first time that day he saw a small spark of comfort return to her face. She opened her lunchbox again and tried to eat a little while sitting close to him. Mark stayed with her through the entire break, giving her all the support he could. When the lunch bell rang, Lily had to return to her classroom. She hugged Mark tightly before walking toward her class door. Her steps were still soft, but she looked braver than before. Mark watched her disappear into the hallway, then he walked out of the building with a heavy mix of anger, sadness, and determination. When he reached his car, he sat for a moment trying to gather his thoughts. He could not erase the image of Lily sitting alone at that table. It stayed in his mind like a painful picture he could not walk away from. He thought about the teasing she had endured and the silence she had kept for so long. A part of him felt frustrated because he had not known what she was going through. Another part felt grateful that he came to the school at the right time to see the truth. He told himself that this situation was not going to continue. He planned to talk to the principal the next day and make sure the school created a better environment for Lily. He was ready to be firm if needed because he wanted the staff to understand that children need protection and guidance. After work, Mark returned home early. He prepared Lily's favorite meal and tried to create a warm atmosphere in the house. When she came home from school, she looked a little tired, but calmer than before. Mark sat with her at the table and asked her about her day. She said it was better because she felt comfort knowing he had been there. She said some of the kids still stared at her, but she did not feel as scared because she knew she had support. Mark listened and encouraged her. He reminded her that she had strength inside her even if she did not always feel it. Later in the evening, Mark decided to help Lily build more confidence. He asked her about her hobbies and her interests. She talked about her love for drawing and reading. Mark suggested they create a new routine where she could express her feelings through art whenever she felt overwhelmed. Lily liked the idea and asked if he could draw with her. Mark smiled and agreed. They spent some time drawing simple shapes and bright pictures. Lily laughed a little while showing him her drawings. This moment felt like a small light breaking through a dark cloud. As the night grew quiet, Mark sat with a thoughtful mind. He realized that while the hurt Lily felt was real, it did not have to define her. He made a silent promise that he would support her through every step of healing. He knew that the road ahead might have challenges, but he believed that together they could face anything. He also believed that this difficult chapter would bring them closer. Tomorrow he planned to speak with the school and ensure that every child understood the value of kindness. For now he watched Lily fall asleep with a gentle expression on her face. She looked peaceful and safe. Mark felt a warm sense of hope fill his heart. Today had been painful, but it had also opened a door for healing. He whispered a promise in his heart that he would never let her face such moments alone again. He felt determined to make sure the next day would be different for her because she deserved a life full of joy, respect, and love. The next morning arrived with a quiet sky as Mark prepared himself for an important day. He had barely slept through the night because his mind kept returning to the moment he found Lily alone in the lunch area. Each detail stayed sharp in his thoughts, and the sadness in her eyes reminded him how deeply she had been hurt. He knew he had to take real steps to protect her, and he planned to meet the principal as soon as he reached the school. Mark wanted the school staff to understand how serious the situation had become for his daughter. He wanted them to take action so she would never feel that kind of loneliness again. Lily walked out of her room dressed for school with her backpack hugged close to her chest. She looked a little unsure, but she tried to smile at him. Mark knelt down and told her he would be visiting the school later in the day to talk with the staff. Lily looked nervous at first, but he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and told her she did not need to fear anything. He assured her that he would speak calmly and respectfully, and that he only wanted her to feel safe in her own school. Lily nodded and gave him a soft hug before stepping outside to wait for the bus. When Mark reached the school, the hallways were quiet because the morning classes had begun. He went straight to the front office and requested a meeting with the principal. The principal welcomed him into her office with a polite expression, yet Mark sensed she already knew the purpose of his visit. He explained everything he had seen the previous day and described Lily's sadness and isolation. He talked about the teasing, the whispers, and the cold behavior from some of the children. The principal listened with a serious face and took notes while Mark spoke. She apologized for the oversight and said that no child should feel left out or unwelcome in school. Mark appreciated her response, yet he wanted more than simple sympathy. He asked what steps the school planned to take to prevent this from happening again. The principal explained that she would speak with Lily's teachers and remind them to watch social behavior more closely. She also said she would arrange a gentle conversation with the students who had been unkind and teach them about the importance of kindness and inclusion. She wanted the message to reach the entire class so that Lily would not feel singled out during the process. Mark felt slightly relieved hearing this, but he also knew change would take time. Still, he believed that beginning the conversation was an important step. After finishing the meeting, Mark asked if he could quietly observe Lily's class during the next break. The principal agreed and arranged a small seating area at the back of the classroom where he could watch without drawing attention. When the break time arrived, he walked into the room and saw Lily sitting at her desk. She was working on a worksheet and seemed focused, yet Mark noticed a slight stiffness in her posture, as if she sensed the presence of other children around her. When a few students walked past her desk, she glanced at them with cautious eyes. It was clear that she had learned to expect unkind behavior, and her young heart had grown alert to every small movement. Mark kept watching and noticed that one of the boys who often teased her walked past with a frown. He gave Lily a quick look but did not say anything. Perhaps the teacher had already spoken to him. Another girl walked by and avoided eye contact with Lily. The room was full of children, yet Lily still sat with a quiet distance around her. Mark felt a deep ache once again. Even though the teasing may have slowed, the silence around her remained heavy. It reminded him how emotional wounds do not heal in a single day. When the break ended, the teacher gathered the students and spoke about kindness. She told them that the classroom should feel safe for everyone. She explained that no one should be treated differently and that every person in the room mattered equally. She asked the children to think about how they would feel if they were left out or spoken to in a hurtful way. Many students looked thoughtful as she spoke. Lily listened too, and her eyes softened a little. Hearing the teacher express these words out loud gave her a small sense of comfort. After observing the class, Mark stepped out into the hallway and wondered how Lily's day would continue. He decided to stay near the school for a while so he could be available if anything happened. He walked around outside the building thinking about how he could help Lily build confidence and find her place again. He wanted her to feel strong from within and not live in fear of other children. As he walked, he realized that the solution would be more than just stopping the teasing. It would be about helping Lily see her own worth. When school ended, Lily walked out of the building and saw Mark waiting. Her face lit up with a small smile, and she hurried toward him. He asked how her day went, and she said it felt a little better. She mentioned that some students looked at her but did not say anything unkind. She said the teacher's words made her feel supported. Mark nodded and told her he was proud of her strength. He also explained that he had spoken to the principal and that more steps would be taken to make the school safer and kinder for every student. On the way home, Mark asked Lily what she enjoyed most about school. She talked about art class and how she liked to draw colorful scenes with trees and animals. Mark asked if she would like to join an art club outside of school where she could meet new friends who shared her interest. Lily thought for a moment and then nodded with a hopeful smile. The idea excited her because she loved creating drawings and she liked the thought of being around children who enjoyed the same. That evening, Mark found a local art center near their home. It offered classes for children and welcomed anyone who wanted to learn. He showed the details to Lily, and she became bright with interest. They decided she would start attending the following week. Mark believed that finding a space where Lily felt welcomed would help her talk more openly and feel more confident. He knew that new friendships could help her heal from the loneliness she had faced at school. Later that night, they sat together at the dining table with colored pencils and paper. Lily drew a picture of a large tree with birds resting on the branches. Mark watched her carefully. He saw how peaceful she looked while drawing, and he realized that art was a place where she felt safe. He asked her to tell him about the story behind her drawing. Lily explained that the tree represented a place where everyone could rest without fear. Mark felt touched by the thought and told her it was a beautiful idea. Before bedtime, Lily looked at him and asked if he thought things would truly change. Mark placed his hand on her shoulder and told her that change sometimes takes time, but it always begins when someone is brave enough to speak. He told her she had already shown great courage by telling him what happened. He promised that he would continue to support her and make sure she never faced such pain alone again. As she fell asleep, Mark stayed in the hallway for a moment thinking about the days ahead. He knew the path toward healing was still long, but he also knew he would walk every step with her. He felt hopeful that her heart would grow stronger, and that she would soon feel the joy she deserved. Tomorrow he planned to help her explore new interests and meet new people. He believed that through patience, love, and steady support, Lily would rise above the shadows that had hurt her. A new week began with a quiet sense of hope in Mark's heart. He watched Lily prepare for school with a calmer expression than before. She still moved with a gentle caution, but there was no fear in her eyes now. She knew her father was standing with her, and that made a big difference. When she stepped onto the school bus, she waved at him with a small, brave smile. Mark stood at the bus stop for a moment after she left, thinking about how far they had come in only a few days. He felt encouraged by her growing strength and believed that the next steps would continue to guide her toward healing. Later in the afternoon, Mark took Lily to her first art class at the community center. The building was bright and friendly, with colorful paintings on the wall and soft music playing in the background. Children were gathered around large tables filled with paint brushes, pencils, clay, and paper. Lily walked in with curious eyes and held onto Mark's hand for comfort. The art teacher greeted them with a warm smile and introduced Lily to a few students who were already working on their projects. They welcomed her kindly, and one girl even offered to share her paints. Lily looked surprised by the kindness but quickly felt grateful. As the class began, Lily sat at a table with the other children. Mark stood at the back of the room watching her. At first she hesitated to pick up a pencil, but the teacher encouraged her, and soon she began drawing gentle strokes on the paper. The children around her talked about their projects, and she slowly joined the conversation. Her voice was soft but steady. Mark felt a warm swell in his heart as he watched her open up in this safe and creative space. The colors she painted were bright and full of life, and he knew this environment was helping her heal. At the end of the class, Lily showed Mark her artwork. It was a picture of a small bird sitting confidently on the highest branch of a tall tree. Mark understood the meaning behind it. The bird represented her courage rising above the challenges she had faced. He praised her drawing, and Lily smiled with pride. The teacher also complimented her and encouraged her to return every week. As they walked to the car, Lily talked excitedly about her new friends and the fun she had. Mark listened with joy because it was the first time he had heard this kind of happiness in her voice since everything began. The next day, Mark returned to the school for a scheduled meeting with the teacher and principal. They discussed the progress made since their previous talk. The principal explained that she had spoken to the students involved in the unkind behavior and had guided them through a conversation about empathy. She said some of the students appeared remorseful and had understood how their actions affected Lily. She also mentioned that the teacher was now watching the social environment more carefully. Mark appreciated these steps and said he hoped the school culture would continue to grow in a positive direction. When Mark visited Lily's classroom, he saw something different from before. Lily was not surrounded by silence anymore. A few children were sitting near her, and one girl asked if she wanted to join their group during lunch. Lily looked surprised and unsure, but she nodded politely. Mark saw the small shift taking place in her environment. She was beginning to be included again. Even if it was slow, the change was real and meaningful. He stepped out of the classroom with relief because he knew her days would no longer be filled with the same loneliness. During lunch that day, Lily walked into the cafeteria with a cautious step, but she did not sit alone. A boy from her class invited her to sit with his group. She placed her lunchbox on the table and looked around nervously at first, but the children at the table welcomed her. They asked her simple questions about her hobbies, and she told them she liked drawing. One of the girls said she loved drawing too, and soon they were talking about their favorite colors. The connection was slow but steady. Mark watched from a distance with a warm feeling in his chest. He had come to school to check on her again, and seeing her surrounded by company brought comfort to his heart. After school, Lily ran toward him with excitement. She told him that lunch had gone well and that she had spoken to more classmates than she expected. She said she still felt a little shy, but she no longer felt unwanted. Mark listened with pride and told her that she had shown real courage. He explained that opening herself to new friendships was a big step and she should be proud of herself. Lily nodded with a shy smile and held his hand tightly as they walked to the car. In the evening, Mark prepared dinner while Lily worked on a small art project at the kitchen table. She drew a scene of a large sun rising above mountains with bright yellow rays stretching across the sky. When she finished, she showed it to Mark and said the picture meant a new beginning. Mark looked at the image and felt admiration for her growing emotional strength. He placed the drawing on the refrigerator and told her it was a perfect reminder of how far she had come. Later that night before bedtime, Lily sat on her bed and asked Mark a question that touched him deeply. She asked why people sometimes treat others unkindly. Mark sat beside her and explained that sometimes people act in hurtful ways because they do not understand the pain they cause. He said some children follow others without thinking, and some struggle with their own insecurities. He reminded her that unkindness never reflects the worth of the person being hurt. Lily listened carefully and nodded as if she was finally letting go of the doubts she once carried. She then asked if things would stay good now. Mark placed his arm around her shoulders and said that life can bring challenges, but she would never face them alone again. He promised that he would always stand with her, guide her, and protect her. She rested her head against his arm, feeling safe and loved. When she finally closed her eyes to sleep, Mark stayed beside her for a few minutes, watching the calm expression on her face. For the first time in many days, he felt peace settling into his own heart. When Mark stepped into the living room, he thought about the journey they had walked together. It began with a painful discovery at the school, and it moved through moments of fear, sadness, courage, and healing. He realized that this experience had not only strengthened Lily, but had also deepened their bond. He felt grateful that he had listened to that quiet feeling inside him that told him to visit her at lunch. That moment had opened the door to truths he needed to see and actions he needed to take. As the house grew quiet, Mark looked at the drawing Lily had made earlier of the rising sun. It reminded him that each day brings a chance for a new beginning. He knew more challenges might come, but he felt ready for them. He believed that kindness could be taught, confidence could be built, and love could heal even the deepest wounds. Most of all, he believed that Lily would grow into someone strong, brave, and full of light. And as he turned off the lights and prepared for sleep, he felt proud of the path they had taken together. He knew Lily would walk forward with courage, and that their home would always be a safe place where her heart could grow. Through patience, hope, and steady support, he had helped her rise again, and that made him feel grateful for every step of their journey.